I wanted to make this video recapping our August WSOP Circuit Cherokee stop. We played 2 events, and the last time we played in Cherokee was in May. We got 7th. We were able to final table. That was right before Vegas, and we got to play at the Summer Series in Vegas. And then after Vegas, we were able to really come up with a framework and study plan that fit us the best. And I was really looking forward to this circuit stop and going in this trip just to be able to see if the things that I'd been studying and the way I had been studying would translate to the table. I didn't play particularly horrible. I played pretty well. My biggest takeaway, regardless of the results, is that some things just still aren't clicking, and that's probably the biggest letdown. Yeah, getting so I played 2 events. The first event, I busted pretty early, about level 2, and the second event I ended up getting 18th. And it's always such a grind to get down to about the final 2 tables and to bust out. But we got 18th. We made some money, and that's always nice. But I'm more interested in what I learned and what I kind of took away than the number beside my name. And I can see that the biggest thing still not translating to the table is ranging my opponents. And the way that I study it, I'm on the phone or the computer, and I have plenty of time, and I'm able to think about, okay, what hands could my opponent possess that would do this or do that? And when I'm at the table, it just doesn't come as natural. So sometimes I just I just abandon it, and a lot of times I'm just acting too quickly. And really, in other cases, my body just acting before my brain even completely catches up. So, we'll take a look at a few hands. We'll take a look at a few spots, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. And I hope moving forward that I'm going to be able to focus more on ranging and really, really study that and slow down. Another thing that I need to think about is sort of, if I do this, what happens? And that's something that I would miss a lot. And I really just need to slow myself down and stick to my study work, stick to the way that I study. It does help. I just need to translate that to the table. So yeah, we'll dive in. If I said that I walked away from Cherokee being a expert in in play or ranging my opponents, no. I came away knowing that ranging my opponent is still my biggest weakness, and it's something that I have to continue to get better at. And I don't think that it didn't prove that my study system worked. It just showed where it still needs work. And that's just the process of me trying to become a better tournament poker player. So yeah, let's dive in, and we'll take a look at a couple of hands from both events. Yeah, so we'll see here for the second event, event 13, we were able to get 18th place for $1,193 out of 513 players. Not bad. Again, like I said, it's always good to have a deep run and to make some money. But I think probably the biggest thing is going to Cherokee specifically with a plan of working on the things that I've been studying, and just letting those things slip away. I think that's probably where I'm the most disappointed. So let's take a look here, and this will be the first event, event 11. So this tournament was on, I believe, Friday. So I played twice. I played Friday and then, or I'm sorry, I played Thursday and Friday. So this tournament was on Thursday. And just the way that it worked out, I was only able to play 2 events, and it fit the schedule. So in this hand here, it's about level 2. We've been playing for a little while, not long, probably about, we'll say, an hour and a half, and I'm first to act. I have still roughly starting stack of about 22K. We start with 20K chips, and I have pocket aces, first act. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to raise it up here, and I'm going to raise it twice the bet, which is currently 600 because the big blind is 300. So I'm going to raise it 2x, which is pretty standard for me, and it's going to fold around, and the player in the cutoff is going to call, the player on the button is going to call, and then the big blind is going to call. So we're going to end up going to the flop, the first 3 cards, with 4 people in the hand, which isn't ideal, but we have pocket aces, so it's okay. We'll see what happens. And the flop comes down favorably. Specifically here, what we'll see is that I have the ace of hearts in my hand, which is going to prove to be a key card in this hand. And I'll explain more about that when we get there. So the big blind, they're acting first. They're going to check. And then for me here, because of the cards that are on this flop, these 3 cards, this would be a flop that we classify as wet, just meaning that there's cards that belong to a straight. There's multiple suited cards, specifically hearts. So whenever it's a wet flop where there's multiple cards that either straight cards for straight draws, flush cards for suited cards for flush draws, then we call those wet flops. So since this flop is so wet, I'm going to bet, and I'd like to get some of these players out of the hand and continue to the next card, hopefully heads up or with the least amount of people as possible. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to bet around half the pot here, which is about 1,200. Could probably bet a little bit bigger, but I think 1,200 here is okay. And the cutoff's going to fold, the button's going to decide to call, and then the big blind's going to fold. So here we accomplish our mission of getting some of the players out of the hand. So now we go to a turn card, the 4th card, and it is the 2 of hearts. So the 2 is unlikely to help the player here on the button. The heart, not necessarily ideal, just because if the button has 2 cards and they're both hearts, say I'm just throwing a hand out there, king, queen of hearts, or I'm sorry, the queen's on board, king, jack of hearts, then they have a made flush, and they've already beat our hand, so they cracked our aces. We'd rather not see a heart here, but really, since we have the ace of hearts, then that's why I say it's the most key card in the deck right now, because having the ace of hearts means that we block what is called the nuts, and we also have the ability to make the nuts on the last card to come. And the nuts just means the best hand there possibly can be, because right now, with the 3 hearts on the board, the best hand that could possibly exist is ace of hearts and then X of hearts, whatever the second card could be, anything, 9, 8, king, jack, whatever, as long as it's ace of hearts and another card that's a heart. And because we have the ace of hearts, we know our opponent does not have the best hand that could possibly exist. So here, I don't like the turn card, and I want to just see if I can realize my equity. So I'm just going to check and see if we can get to the river and see what would happen on the river. My opponent here decides to bet out 3,500. They're betting about a little more than a half pot, and really here, this is sort of an example of not really ranging my opponent, not thinking about, okay, what hands would take this action? What hands would bet this turn? And I wasn't doing it in real time. Thinking about it now, then it's easy to think about, there's a lot of hands that would bet this turn. You could have some sets like 3 threes, 3 queens, 3 tens. Those would want to bet. 2 pair, queen 10 would want to bet. And then you'd have a lot of draws, hands that aren't made, but, king jack, because you would then have king, queen, jack, 10 for an open-ended straight draw. An ace or a 10 on the next card would give them the straight. And specifically, if they had king jack of hearts, then they have a flush and they have a straight draw to either the royal flush. If the ace of heart came, it can't because I have it, or a just straight flush if a nine of heart were to come on the river. And again, here so it's I'm not gonna say the hand's a mistake because I'm not getting away from it. Like I don't really think there's a world where I'm getting away from here. Um, I'm just more upset about myself because I went to Cherokee to specifically work on ranging, and I didn't even do it in this moment. All I'm thinking about is, hey, I have the ace of hearts and I'm going to leverage that and I'm going to bluff here and I'm going to jam all in because I have the ace of hearts. I have the most key card in the deck, and it's going to put a lot of pressure on this person to fold. And then also, if they call, I'm never dead, and if a heart comes on the last card, then I'm going to double up and I'm going to scoop a massive pot. And another thing that's kind of, again, I think it's just my body acting before my brain catches up is it's embarrassing, but I didn't realize, I could also win this hand if the board pairs on the river say that they do have two pair. It depends on the two pair. Spoiler alert, they happen to have queen 10. So if the river was a 3 or a 2, then I would have two pair aces and 3s or aces or 2s, giving me the better hand. But I didn't even think about those as being outs or pathways to a victory in the moment. It was just, I have ace of hearts. I have, the nut blocker, and I'm going to run this bluff. I'm going to jam. I'm going to put a lot of pressure on him to fold. And if he calls, then hopefully we hit our heart and, double up. So I end up shoving all in. And it's also easier to make this play because I'd planned to rebuy. I didn't end up rebuying this day, not because I was playing bad or anything, but I ended up just spending the day with my wife instead, and so I didn't end up rebuying. But at the moment in the hand, I'd planned on it, so it's easier to make this play. And that's why I say, even not ranging my opponent, not thinking about hands that they could have, like the king jack of hearts, the sets, the two pairs, etc. Not even thinking about that. Just having the ace of hearts, having the nut flush draw, being in this setup. I'm just never getting away from it. It's early in the tournament. I'm planning to rebuy, and this is our opportunity to essentially double up. And we have a lot of outs. Any heart is going to win as the hand. And then now we know, looking at it, if the board pairs a 3 or a 2, that's going to win as the hand, win as the hand as well. So, but again, didn't even think about the board pairing as extra pathways to victory, and I should have been. And it's just examples of, not doing what I'm supposed to be doing when I'm at the table. So he ends up calling, and he took a while and considered folding, but he ended up calling with his two pair, queen 10, and that's completely fine. I think probably similar thoughts to me early in the tournament. You either, for him looking at me, he's probably thinking you either have the flush or you don't. And, he calls, and unfortunately the river is a relative blank. 4 of diamonds doesn't help us, and our pair of aces lose to the two pair, queen 10. So we are eliminated from event 11. And like I said, I'd planned on rebuying, but I ended up not on this day. So now for event 15. So in this event we get this event we get 18th place, and sort of all of these, they're going to follow the same thing, where we're just going to have situations where we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing, with the exception there'll be 2 hands where we do what we're supposed to do, and those work out well. And then there'll be, looks like 3 hands where we're not. So here we're relatively early in the event. The blinds are probably about level 2, level 3. The blinds are 300, 600. So we're under the gun here with ace of diamonds, queen of spade. Pretty good hand to start with. and we're going to raise it again 2x the bet, which is currently 600. So we're going to make it 12, and then everyone's going to fold around. The player on the button is going to call, and then the player in the small blind, they're going to call because they only have to call an extra 900 because they already have 300 blindly committed to the pot. And then the big blind is going to call as well. They only have to call an extra 600 because they have 600 already blindly committed to the pot. I don't know why it keeps doing that. So they're going to call, and then just like the previous event, yay, going 4 ways, four players to the flop, to the first 3 cards. So the flop comes out, and very, very eerily similar to the previous day, we have the ace of diamonds, and the board comes out on the flop, ace, jack, 7, and the 2 diamonds. So with our hand, we've made top pair. So we have a pair of aces with a queen kicker. And then we also have what we would call a backdoor flush draw because we only have really 3 diamonds. And if we get the next 2 cards diamond, then we can make a backdoor flush. But really here, similar spot as the hand that we saw in the previous event, in a way that, again, we have the most key card in the deck, which is the ace of diamonds, because it is going to block the best hand that there could be out there, which would be ace x of diamonds for the nut flush draw. And in poker, when we say nut, it's just the best hand possible, or if it's like nut flush, it's the best flush possible, or nut draw, it's the best draw possible. But just nuts is the best hand possible. So here our small blind is going to check, our big blind is going to check, it's going to check to us, and like the hand before, we're going to have to clear out some people, and we want to make a bet. We're going to bet about half pot, which is about 2,000. And this bet is going to do several things. It's going to allow us to charge draws. So anyone that is on a draw with the straight ace jack, so say king queen, anybody that has flush draws that have diamonds in their hand, they're going to have to pay if they want to see the next card. They're not going to be able to see it for free. And they're also often able to drag along worse ace X hands. At Cherokee, it can be a little loose, ace 10, ace 9, things of those. So we want to get value from those hands, and specifically a jack. Maybe someone had king jack. We want to get value from that. But in the moment, I'm not really thinking about that. I'm just sort of playing on autopilot and not thinking about the hands that could exist out there. But here, with two players checking to us, we don't have a ton of information. We need more information for that ranging to start taking place. So here the button calls, and then the small blind folds, and the big blind folds. And then the turn comes, and just like the previous event, it is a diamond, and it's the king of diamonds. And for us, it's a strange place to be because we're sort of sitting here thinking, here we go again. We're probably up against 2 pair again, and here we have this ace of diamonds, and we have the best card. We have the best card we could have. It blocks what could be the best possible card out there. This board is terrible for our hand just because of the diamonds. The flush has come through. The straight has come through. If they had queen 10, just very bad for our hand. But not really, thinking about all of that, at the time like I should have been. And the player, one thing though about this hand is the player on the button here. So I'm going to check, and the player on the button, he only has about 10,000 left, and we have about 40,000 left. So they can't really do a significant amount of damage to us, only about a fourth of our stack. And I had observed playing with him for a little while these sort of weird small bets, and I can't explain it, but it's also the way that he would bet as well. So he has 10,000 and he decides to bet 3,000. And I'd seen him do this previously with just air, just a pure bluff. He had like king high, and kind of windmilled it in the guy's face, and that was one of the reasons that I got to see it. So it just felt very very similar. So like the hand before, um, I'm thinking to myself, all right, we're just do this again. We're gonna leverage the fact that we have the ace of diamonds, the best card that we can have, and we are going to jam all in, and we're going to put the pressure on this player for their tournament life. And if they call us, we're more than likely behind, and we'll need to hit a heart on the diamond, a diamond on the river, the last card to come. So we end up moving all in, and they end up folding. So my read was right in that they were either bluffing or just betting something very weak. And so I'm glad that worked out. But again, wasn't doing what I was supposed to in this hand, to be happy about it. So this hand I really like because it was one of the hands where I played well, and I was able to sort of slow down and think, and really, I think, to me, it's just sort of it felt like a master class in slow playing a monster hand. And it felt really good to be able to do it, to be able to recognize certain spots, especially near the end, and I'll show you. So here we are. We're about middle to act, and we have ace five of diamonds. So the player here under the gun, he's first to act. They're going to fold. It's going to fold around to the player on my right. I've been playing with him for a while, and he raises it up to 1,600, 2x the bet that's out there because the blinds are 400, 800, and we're going to call. I like ace five suited. A lot of people do because even though the five's weak, ace five suited, it has the ability to make a flush, it has the ability to make a straight, it has the ability to make um, so many hands. So ace five performs pretty well, and we like to call here. So we're going to call and then see what develops. The player on the button, he decides to call, and then both of the blinds fold. And the player on the button, he had been a little loose and splashy. That's sort of our profile on him. And the player to our right, like I said, I'd played with him for a pretty good while, and he was pretty snug. I would say he was a straightforward player. So our flop's going to come out, and it's just beautiful for our hand. It's five ace five. So now here we flopped a full house. We have fives full of aces. That just means we have 5, 5, 5, ace, ace. So 3 fives and 2 aces. So we have a full house. Now, it is possible, albeit I will say very, not impossible, but less likely. It's possible that the player here to our right, the under the gun +2, player 3, they could have started the hand with pocket aces. And if that's the case, then they have a better full house than we do. They have aces full of fives. So ace, 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 5, 5. And that would be a disaster. That's the only hand that beats us. But I say if they have pocket aces, then that's just the way it is going to go down. And, you live with it, because here, flopping the full house, we are just so high up in our range. It's beautiful. And, like we have an ace, there's an ace on the board. That reduces the likelihood that they have 2 aces, because there's only the other 2 left in the deck. Not impossible, but unlikely. So that player is going to bet, and that's awesome for us. So then the action is going to come on us. And here, I may play this differently if the button player is not behind me. But since there's a player to act behind me, then I will slow play this, and I will just call. Also, I just have so much of the board that if I start raising now, then it could create problems where I just don't get paid. So I think really having this player behind me on the button player 7, I'm curious what he does. And maybe he'll do our bidding for us. Maybe he'll race it. Maybe he'll just call. Maybe he gets out of the way. We don't know, but we just want to slow play. So that's why I say I think this is, for me, it felt like just a master class of slow playing. And we decided to call. We're not going to expose the strength of our hand here. The player on the button calls. Fantastic. We're in a dream spot. The turn is going to just be the 7 of diamonds. Unlikely to really change anything or help anyone in the hands that they could have. The player to our right that has been doing the betting decides to bet again. This time they're going to bet about fourth a pot, and that seems to be the sizing that they've been comfortable with and that they've been using. So not much to take away from the sizing in terms of a tell or anything like that. So again, we're just going to continue to slow play. We're not going to raise it. We're just going to call, and we're going to see what the button does behind us. Hopefully they come along and continue to call. And they do. So they, in fact, call. And the river, the last card to come, it's going to be the 8 of hearts. Again, unlikely to change anything. It's like just now we're in a weird position because it's thinking about, okay, we have 45K and both of the other players have about 45K and there's 20K in the middle. How do we get the money in the middle? How do we make the most money possible? And luckily, our friend to the right here, he's going to bet again. This time he bets about half pot on the river, about 10K. And I'm now in a situation where I've got to figure out the best way to extract the most value. And my read on the situation and my read on the player on the button is that he was so wide and so splashy that if I just call this 10K, then it's most likely the button player here is going to fold, or he's just going to call the 10K. So then in this situation, we're only making an additional 20K, 10K from player 3 here, 10K from the button. But most likely, if I call, the button is just, he's going to fold, and I'm only going to make the 10K. So my decision here, I'm going to go all in. And I think that's going to be the best way to get paid, because I'm thinking that it's more likely that the player to my right is going to call my all in than it is that the button is going to raise in this situation. And I think that's the best play for me in the moment. So I end up jamming all in for 45K. It's about 30,000 more than the player to the right's bet. The button folds. So he probably wasn't calling the 10K either. Hard to know. And then it goes back to our friend here and the player 3 to our right. And he does, in fact, call our all in. And he has ace jack. So he led the whole way with ace jack. And we scoop up a massive pot. We win about 112K, whereas we started the hand with, I think, approximately, something like 30K or something, somewhere around there. So that was a hand I really liked and a hand I think I played really well, especially on the river, the last card, because of the decision to go ahead and get the money in versus calling and relying on the button player to raise, because if he calls, the action's closed and we would have only made the 20K instead of the full 40K that we ended up stacking this player off. Here, this is a hand that I think, again, is just not ranging my opponent, not even thinking about it. It's a hand I'm never getting away from, but that's not the point. The point is, regardless, I still want to be doing things that I've set out to get better at. So we'll take a look. We are under the gun +2, so we're early to act, and we have ace 10 of hearts. And then here, it's going to fold to us, and the current blinds are 2,000, 4,000. So we've been playing for a while, and the blinds have gone up, and we have about 85K. We're going to raise it. We're going to raise it to about 2.5x. We're going to raise it to 10K. And normally I would do 2x, like 8K. And I think the reason I made it 10K is I didn't have change. So no big deal. It'll be okay. So we make it 10K, and then it's going to fold around, and the player on the button is going to call, and then the player in the small blind is going to call. The big blind's going to fold, and we're going to go to the flop, our first 3 cards. So here, it's a beautiful flop for our hand because we have middle pair top kicker. So we hit our 10 because we have ace 10. So we have 10 pair of 10s with an ace kicker, and we have the nut flush draw. Again, the ace of hearts being the key card, because if another heart comes off, we'll make the flush. More importantly, we'll make the nut flush. We also have some other avenues to win here, but just being in this spot, we have middle pair and we have the flush draw. So our small blind villain here, like I always say, he's not a villain, not a bad guy. We just label him that because that's who beats us in the hand. He's going to check. It's going to come to us, and we're going to bet 15K. We'll bet about half pot because we have so much equity. We have so many ways to win this hand, and if we say we don't hit a heart, it just comes 2 terrible cards or whatever. We're happy winning the pot here and now. So even if everyone folds, it's not the end of the world. We only have a pair of 10s realistically with a flush draw. The button decides to fold, and then the small blind jams all in. And here, again, this is where I should be thinking, okay, what hands check and then jam over my bet on this top of flop? And the hands that would do that would be sets, 3 10s, 3 kings, 3 nines, 2 pair, king 10, king 9. There could be many draws that would do that. Hearts like we have, queen jack of hearts, even queen jack offsuit because they have the mate straight, ace queen, and ace jack. There's a lot of draws for straights or flushes that would do that. And that's the whole point. And that's what I'm getting at, is that's what I've got to get better at doing at the table, because I do it so well in study, but at the table, I'm just not doing it. But here in this hand, they've bet 32K. There's 85K in the pot, and we have 60K. So even if we call them and lose this hand, we're still in the tournament. And there's just no world where we're folding this hand. We have middle pair with the nut flush draw, even without ranging them, without even thinking about what they have, what could happen, etc. There's just no world we're getting away from this hand. Even if we range, even if we had 30 minutes to sit there and range every possible combination of hand that they could have, we're never folding, we're calling. And we decide to call here, and our opponent shows us 2 pair, king 9. So now we are behind, and we've got to catch up to win this hand. The 7 on the turn is not going to help us, and then the 3 on the river is not going to help us. So again, unfortunate, and it just happens. Nothing we can do about it. But like I say, that's not the point. The whole point in looking forward to Cherokee was working on my ranging. And there's just so many times where I'm not doing that. I'm just focused on my hand. I'm focused on the board, and I'm not doing what I do in study. Show a hand where I actually did the ranging and took my time and folded and saved myself some chips and saved myself from getting hurt in the process and actually doing what I'm supposed to do. But this video is getting longer, so we're just going to wind it down. So ultimately, we're 18 players left, and we're short. We have about 235K, or about 9 big blinds, 9 rotations around the table. And our hand is ace 9 offsuit. Not a bad hand, depending on what happens. And here, the villain under the gun +1, early to act. He raises 3 times the big blind, 25K. He raises to 75K, and then it folds to us. And with only 9 big blinds, 9 rotations around the table, and being so short, ace 9 offsuit, we've got to go all in. It's just too much of a hand to fold. And I think if we fold here, we're doing it out of fear and trying to ladder up a little bit versus trying to win. And I'm going for the win. So versus this raise, I'm going all in. And I really would prefer to just take the pot down with ace nine offsuit. Or if I get called, at least have a chance. So it's going to fold around, and our villain in this hand, the player that eliminates us, they make the call and they have pocket sevens. So it's a great situation for us. Um, it's a flip. It's what we say, coin flip or a race, and that just means that we have two cards that are higher than the sevens. So for us to win, we have to hit an ace or a nine on the 5 cards that come. And then for the villain to win, they have to prevent, like they have to make sure an ace or a nine doesn't come. So their sevens have to hold, or we have to catch up by hitting an ace or a nine. So that's what we mean by a coin flip or a race. It's roughly 50-50 because half the time the pair that's the lower pair is going to hold up, and then the other half of the time the over cards, one of them is going to hit. So we just happen to be in a flip here, and you got to win flips to win tournaments. You got to win the races or flips to make a deep run. And here we want to see ace or a nine. So flop, no ace, no nine. Turn, still no ace or nine. And in the river, still no ace or nine. So the villain, his sevens held up, and we lost the flip. We didn't hit our ace or our nine. Had we won this hand, we'd have had about 530 some K, 18 big blinds, and probably would have been able to make another final table run. That just wasn't in the cards for us. So again, I think, I'm happy with the results, and I'm happy to get 18th, make some money. And the way I played in a lot of spots, I'm just upset with myself, not doing the things I set out to do, which was ranging my opponents. So moving forward, that's what I'll work on the most, ranging my opponents, thinking about consequences before acting. If I do this, what happens? Getting comfortable still in that 15 to 25 big blind range, and slow down. Let my brain catch up before my body reacts. So, yep, that's it for this stop. And as always, thank you guys for watching. I always appreciate it. And as we say here on the channel, every tournament ends with a review, and every review is intended to make the next tournament better.